have named myself. I would have been fine. Dahlia de la Vega is the LA-based content creator and interviewer that we love having here at the store. She is the creator behind Up Pages in Print, so if you're not following that, you should on social media. She is a voracious reader and audiobook devourer and created Up Pages in Print to support fantasy, romance, and YA authors. She can be found moderating panels just like this and conventions across Southern California, hosting her monthly book club, Musings of the Nine, and chatting about her favorite reads on Instagram. And our guest of honor, born from ink and stardust, Kiri Callahan is an author of fantastical fiction, a performer, and a poet. When Kiri is not telling stories or pretending to be other people, she is likely exploring the world, dancing under the moon, or crafting something with superglue paint in sheer audacity. Or writing books, maybe. She resides with her ridiculously stunning wife, the sweetest ball python to ever exist, a raccoon bunny hybrid masquerading as a cat, and a sentient void with an unhealthy penchant for chicken in LA. And we're so glad to celebrate your book right here. Yeah. Awesome, thank you for having us.
Hello everyone, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us to celebrate this incredible book. As Teresa mentioned, I love audiobooks, and if you haven't read, or if you don't have the audiobook of this one yet, you need it. It's incredible. Kiri reads the footnotes, which is an incredible experience, and the rest of the narrators are amazing. But that's enough about the audiobook. Let's talk about the actual book, which you start us off with an elevator pitch.
This is a Hearth Witch's Guide to Magic and Murder is a modern-day Sherlock with sapphics, fae, and magic.
Yes. Everything we need. I love it. Okay, so where did the initial kernel of inspiration come from, and how did you approach it? You're like, I'm ready.
So this is my favorite story to tell because if anyone who knows me, my nickname is Curiosity. And I grew up on Sherlock, but I had not known that much until about a decade ago. So this has kind of been simmering in the back of my mind. The world has for about a decade. About Arthur Conan Doyle himself until, 10 years ago or so. And he's a very interesting man because he created Sherlock Holmes because at the time it wasn't super common for detective stories to give you all of the clues as you went. Like a lot of times during the summation, you'd get to this point where the detective would go, and I found this footprint, and you as the reader would go, you never found that when I was reading. What do you mean? And Arthur Conan Doyle was very upset about this. He's like, no, you should be able to solve along with the detective. Or potentially before the detective, because you have the advantage of knowing it's a book. So, especially nowadays, you're like, I kind of know what the structure of this is gonna be. You're not gonna introduce the killer for the first time in the last 2 pages, so you can usually put stuff together. But at the same time, this man was heavily into the spiritualism movement, which if you were not familiar was the time of mediums, and he even really believed in these doctored photographs of fairies that these young girls had used with illustrations they had done, copied out of a book, despite that multiple people had sort of discounted them and been like, no, these aren't, this is fake, maybe magic exists out there, but this is not it. To the point where Harry Houdini, of illusionist fame, they briefly had a friendship, and during that briefly, over 2 years maybe or so, it ended basically poorly with, the long and short of that is Houdini really hated that these mediums were using his trade of illusions and that he did for entertainment to take advantage of people and who were grieving and vulnerable. And so he had made it sort of this side project of his to debunk all of these famous mediums as he went about. And at one point, he had even been like, okay, Arthur, we're gonna do this in your home, we're gonna have people there, I'm gonna show you exactly what this medium did. I can't tell you how I did it because magician's code and all that, but I will assure you it was not supernatural. Unfortunately, this backfired, and Conan Doyle just basically was more convinced that meant Houdini was supernatural. It was kind of like, you can't fool me, wizard. Alas, which is the funny part of it to me. And then the sad part is later, he had also, his second wife was proclaimed a medium, and she had volunteered to do a reading for Houdini, and supposedly it connected with his mother. I think wrote like 15 pages that were supposed to be from his mother. And then when she handed it over, he looked at it and then politely excused himself and was like, okay, Arthur, it was nice, but I don't know if we should hang out again, basically. Because the entire thing was written in English and had made references to the Christian God. Harry Houdini's mother was Hungarian, didn't speak a word of English, and was Jewish. So...
He wasn't great. How do you amend that fence after that?
But I was so enamored by this idea of like the you can't fool me wizard sort of moment of like, how can someone this dedicated to logic and reason be clinging so hard to what is right in front of him? And could that both be true in a world? And so it kind of sprung from that idea of like, not Houdini, because I don't think that would be very respectful to his legacy, but if there had been, say, a warlock in the time who had then gone, in order to help keep the magical world a secret, I'm going to now make actual people showing their magical talents look like frauds so that we keep this a secret. And sort of the world built from that. And then eventually, because it was based on this idea from Conan Doyle, I was like, well, why not just make it a Sherlock story?
Why not?
So that's a very long-winded way of like, that kernel was from a very odd moment.
I love it. You guys are in for a treat because this world is incredible. Are we talking about the next question? Not quite, almost.
I told you I will ramble and go everywhere.
No, we're here for it. Okay, in the author's note, you describe the story as one of Hugo.
Yes.
Okay, good. A feeling akin to cuddling a loved one while watching a scary movie. Would you expand upon your approach to writing cozy fantasy with a dose of danger?
Absolutely. So I grew up on Don Bluth, like many millennials of my age, and I was very much a fan of his idea of, his thing was kids can handle pretty much anything as long as it ends well. And I thought, well, I sort of feel like that continues, and you can still kind of keep a very cozy energy, because I also really love Agatha Christie, who we kind of recognize as sort of the birth of cozy mystery, even though I would say that what she started with is very different from a lot of what comes out today in that genre, or cozy fantasy for that matter. But for me, that idea of safety has always kind of walked a little bit hand in hand with, we're not avoiding the darkness, but I'm not going to leave you while we walk through it. Because I don't feel like ignoring the hard parts actually makes me feel any safer. I just need to know it's going to be okay.
This story is incredible. You can't tell I love this book so much. And I mean, it's both gripping and very comforting at the same time. So it's amazing. Okay, now we get to talk about the world now. Hearth Witch is set in modern day London. How did you approach developing the immersive world and infusing magic into modern day London?
Well, that was a matter of, if you had, like, if they were real, and for me it was the idea that they had to be very connected to the earth, and I'm very pagan and witchy, and all right, so if that is where magic comes from, what changes would have to happen for them to survive? And it just sort of became this thing of like, okay, well, we're starting with the Industrial Revolution. We're going to just try and make the world look a little bit more eco-friendly, which in some ways was very beneficial to humanity, but sort of as like a collateral benefit rather than collateral damage. Like, it was not, hey, let's make this world better for the humans by, stopping them from having world wars. Not because we don't care, like, we don't really care if they kill each other, but maybe don't use it with these giant weapons that then hurt the earth and then hurt us. And that idea of, I was talking with my wife about it, is almost kind of trying to make kind of the way that Star Trek has sort of a utopia world compared, and like, they don't have capitalism, but they still have plenty of problems to work with. And that idea of, if you're going to make a fantasy world, why not at least make part of it aspirational, even if the way it got there was not because out of the goodness of somebody's heart.
And, okay, let's talk a little bit about mythology and folklore, because amazing. How did you approach researching and weaving in the folklore, especially in this story where magic and our world coexist?
Well, I wanted to be very true to not just the London now, but the London of what this would look like. And London itself now is a very diverse place. You have all these different cultures. It was a port city. You had all this mixing and like, well, it wouldn't be just European folklore for that matter. It would be everybody. And it was so much research went into it, and just trying to find, because it's lovely, it's a beautiful thing about humanity is we have so many similar mythologies, even before our cultures even met, and finding like, okay, well, these two seem like maybe these are two different perspectives about the same sort of fae creature, and finding where that could work easily in the narrative, and then others where it's like, no, this is something all its own because this only exists, this is very unique to this specific culture, and trying to honor that, and doing way more research than I needed to for the narrative to make sure that it was being grounded as not just an honor of the mythology, but then you have, if you're making, say, fae or magical beings exist in the real world, you then have this idea of there's a lot of folklore and mythology that exists to teach us lessons. And so you have some creatures that are just evil by nature. But if you're grounding them in a reality, you can't have that. You can't have an entire species just be evil, because evil is essentially something you do, it's not something you are. So it's a verb, not a noun. And that also became a thing of like, what part of this is clearly being influenced by sort of the morality that the culture was trying to put into it, of like, to try to keep you, much like monsters under your bed, of like, don't do that because then you'll be eaten. Or the weird little mythologies like the Yule cat, where you have to have new clothes before Christmas or you'll be eaten by a giant cat. Probably was started by, a tailor who really needed people to buy clothes. I don't know. It might be like a Fish on Fridays things with Catholicism, where it's like the fish market's not doing great. We eat fish on Friday if you can. But yeah, just trying to find ways that it could be, like trying to understand why it might have existed, and then trying to look at it of how could that have maybe been twisted by the humanity that had been around it. This is my rambling way of trying to answer that question.
I love it. That's amazing. And do you have a favorite fun fact from your,
So many. Honestly, the Yule Cat's pretty high up there. I love the Yule Cat. It's not a fun fact, but I think my favorite myth will always be the Tulikettu, which I learned first from my father. It's a Finnish firefox. They lit the northern lights with the fire from their tails, and it is my favorite myth.
Incredible. I love it. Oh my goodness. I need to know more about that one. I have only heard of it like once. Okay, so footnotes are sprinkled throughout the story, and they not only added helpful information, but also your witty commentary. How did you approach writing and incorporating them?
It was first suggested by my editor, because I was pulling from so many different mythologies and doing so much research, and then referring to it very casually in the text, because I wanted it to feel very normal, just because it wasn't as widely known. And my editor did point out, hey, this might not be as known to an English-speaking audience or even an American audience. How do you feel about footnotes? And I initially was a little trepidatious about it, because I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to feel like I'm othering anybody and assuming what means what. And thanks to my lovely wife, I've read a lot more Terry Pratchett lately. And when I talked to her about it, she's like, well, just what if you did a Terry Pratchett-like footnote? And this idea of bringing the humor and tongue-in-cheek into it, and using it more as a world-building tool to also, because of that, grounding it. And I do have a little disclaimer in the beginning about not all of this folklore is going to be accurate to its origin, because some of it had to be combined, some of it, had to be altered, because we don't want like an entire evil race of fae. So that just kind of made a very fun thing of like, oh yeah, we can kind of ground them in whatever the mythology of this book is, using those. And I'm very, very grateful for that, because it also, I think, allowed me to get a lot more humorous with my narration as well. And I love a good just tongue firmly planted in the cheek.
They were probably like my favorite part. I
Yay!
absolutely love them.
Mine
Okay.
too.
They're so good. Okay, and then my next favorite part, well, besides the sound effects, was the murder mystery. It was delightful.
There was murder in this book?
No, crazy. You had so many. I mean, I have to say, the murder descriptions, I was impressed. I was like, you managed to do this, and you're grisly, but at the same time, it's very cozy. So,
Research.
Yes, exactly. So,
I have not killed anyone for legal reasons.
okay, would you walk us through the process for writing the murder mystery?
I plan the murders. it is really, I think that's how we start it always, is with a whiteboard and surprisingly no red string, but essentially putting my
Marker, perhaps?
Yes, there is a red dry erase marker absolutely
Okay.
involved. And essentially it starts by plotting the murder from the point of view of the murderer. Because you want it, in my opinion, you want it very much, you never want your murderer to seem like a, whoa, like, yes, they're doing horrible things, but to that person, it's justified. To that person, they probably don't see themselves as the bad guy. And trying to look at it of like, okay, from this person's perspective, how do they feel that they can get away with this, that they're justified in what they're doing, that, so that's always how we start. And then from there, after you've got it all plotted out, so you kind of work backwards, you go to that first crime scene and you try to look at it as like, if I'm just saying this as this, and I know nothing about what I already figured out for the murderer, how do I misinterpret this? Like, what does this look like at a glance in the most logical way that is not actually what I know it is? And that's usually how I go about it.
I love it, and I have to know how, like, for the murder descriptions themselves, because they were so immersive, like, I could picture it. What was your process for researching that? Like, did you just look at a lot of murder images?
Well, you can't look at a lot of murder images. They don't let those go online. Some medical journals, lots of medical journals, which I have my father to thank for, like, knowing where to look in some things. Researching the 6 different, I don't want to say that's not 6. 6 different smells that you are likely to smell with in a body's first few days of decomposition, depending on the hour. It's not pleasant. And just, what do you have to know? Because I never wanted it to ever feel gratuitous, but then also not try to, like, be lighter. Like, regardless that it's on page, a life is extinguished, and that has gravity. And trying to look at it of, like, what information needs to be on this page for someone to, for instance, there's only one that's really gruesomely described in my opinion. Yes. But, like, coffin flies show up after a certain amount of time. And knowing that, like, that is information, that is forensic information that is helpful. Is it kind of gross to hear about? A little bit, but we tried to, like we kept it very light and, like, we're only gonna let you know that they're there, and I think we did it through dialogue rather than actually describing it. Which, again, you're gonna have a more gruesome if someone's just commenting about that. That's gonna be less than if you went into the detail of describing them crawling on the body or something like that. Now I'm getting more gross than the book is. Lots of research with medical books. It's really what it was.
I love it. And okay, so Hearth Witch opens with Gideon's point of view, and then the rest of the story is told from Saga and Avery's points of view. Would you walk us through your process for developing multiple points of view and then propelling the story through each?
Absolutely. You have to, it was really a matter of what is the easiest way to let the audience know what's different than our world, as well as what makes the Fae world. And I think the trope is referred to as something like a stranger in a strange land or something. The best way to introduce a new, like, fantasy world is someone who's not familiar with it, and having them kind of ask the same questions that the audience would as sort of a proxy. And so it really became a matter of, like, what is the best way to introduce this to? the first chapter with Gideon is he knows more about both worlds than anyone else in the rest of the book, but he is our intro into the world itself, because through him we kind of get this idea of what our main character is like. And then for Saga, the magical world is completely unknown. So anything that was particularly very heavy on a magical world-based aspect usually would be from her point of view. And the same with Avery, of if there was something in this solar punk version of London, you would try to show it through her eyes, because then it sort of helps people go, oh, this is not our London as we know it. This is a different alternate universe, really, more than even alternate history. But
I love it. And okay, so talking about Saga and Avery, their romance was spectacular. It was amazing. It was swim-worthy, banter, chemistry, all of it. What was your process for writing it? Give me your secrets.
Kind of just. So it happens over the course of a week. The entire book is about a week long. So really just kind of going through every time I got to hang out with my wife in that initial time of knowing her, of just like, I want to hang out with you and be your best friend, but also you give me these weird butterflies and I don't like that they make me feel stupid. And just really kind of playing with that initial spark. And I love a slow burn. I love emotional edging. If you stick with this series, it's gonna go on for a bit. And I both apologize and do not for that.
We're so excited. We're so ready. I love them. Okay, so I need to do this question. Okay, I know I'm splitting it. Okay, so Avery is a changeling, and she accidentally reveals the Fae's existence to Saga. Accidentally. How did you approach crafting Saga's reaction with the Fae world and her adaptation to the civilization that the Fae are living amongst humans?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing with that was knowing, like, one, we all kind of, I think if we love fantasy, we all really just are hoping to kind of stumble down that one alleyway and find a magical shop. Or I feel like there's such a kernel of, like, if you have any bit of whether you are pagan like Saga and I, or if you're just really, really love fantasy books, you're hoping for that confirmation. There's just something there. But at the same time, when you get it, it's like, what? But as much as navigating that was something I knew I needed to take care of. I think more important was grounding it in something emotional and relatable. This is not a spoiler, you know it from the beginning. And the big one is not that this world exists. That is the big thing for her, but that this world exists, it has existed, her family knows it, and has not told her. And that emotional betrayal is, I think, something that's relatable enough to bring it back to the reader and really ground that moment of the fantastical things are great and having that, but also this.
So beautifully done. So beautifully done. Okay, so you answered that question already.
I told you
did
it would happen.
I love it. Okay, so a former med school student, Saga's medical knowledge proves invaluable in Avery's murder investigation. How did you approach developing their relationship through their forced proximity with the investigation?
That was a big thing for me, is I needed to fish out of water, because a big thing with the Watson and Holmes original relationship is they fill each other's gaps very nicely.
Mm-hmm.
And with a kind of Sherlockian character, you can't have they don't suffer fools. And so you need somebody, if you're going to have this duo, it needs to be I need you because you have this access to this information. And for Avery, it's, hey, I've been asleep for 200 years. I don't know how to navigate this. So in exchange for your help, you just found out the Fae world exists. So how about I help you, you help me, and we'll hopefully get this thing solved and we'll be on our way. And then, you know, they start actually liking hanging out with each other. But also just, it was important to me to be able to not just have that, because it could have been any random human with that knowledge. And one, the medical knowledge is a nice homage to John Watson as well, but that idea of someone coming in with both the holistic magic of being a Hearth Witch, as well as being a med school dropout, essentially, of like, I have all this other information and I don't know what else to do with it right now because I'm not sure if I want to still be a doctor.
Okay. And okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the witches and witchcraft. Delightful. How did you approach incorporating witchcraft and putting your own spin on witches?
Very carefully. As I said, I identify as pagan. Both Bridget and I follow the goddess Bridget. No, both Saga and I follow the goddess Bridget. The phrase that the family keeps saying of Bridget doesn't think it's dumb is a phrase we use very often in the house. Anytime that you feel like you want to try something new, but you're like, I don't know, like I'm feeling kind of imposter syndrome starts to creep in. Bridget doesn't think it's dumb. Do it. So it was a matter of wanting to really bring in that tradition that I knew of, working with herbs and sort of the folk magic, as well as holistic medicine, as well as giving it that little extra oomph, but really basing it on the idea of intention, and that it's not the words that make the magic, it's your intent and how you can focus it into it. And that for me was another way of sort of taking the magic and bringing a lot of what I use in my own spiritual practice into also just this fantasy magic as well.
I love that. And okay, so parts of Hearth Witch take place at Hudson's Cafe and Confectionery, and I loved it. I just loved it so much. You have brewing tea, you have some baking scenes. What was your process for developing that element?
That's honestly just pulling a lot from life. There is a recipe in the back of this particular one that uses a thing that was developed during COVID that my lovely wife dealt with me baking so many of these, and we're like, we need to share them with our neighbors. We can't eat all of these. I put this down for a second.
Yeah.
Honk. But this is the page of the vanilla shortbread cookie crust with the lemon curd and the lavender Earl Grey whipped cream. But I wanted to bring that. Yeah, that's in the back of the book. You can make it. And I did my darndest to copy this down and then actually make it at the time and go, what part of this do I actually add? Because I've come to realize when I bake, it is a lot by eye. And go, yeah, that's it. So I feel fairly confident that I managed to give you what I actually do in that book, because I don't know if this is fully accurate. So I was going, oh, but that doesn't look right. I usually add a little bit more flour. Shoot, how much was that?
Amazing. And I mentioned the recipes right here. So we don't even touch those yet. They're so good. Okay, so Hearth Witch is a vibrant, hopeful, and joyful story, but it also balances grief and loneliness and other darker themes. How did you approach striking that balance?
We kind of touched on this a little bit, but for me, again, comfort is not refusing to incorporate those. It's usually, let's talk about the hard thing, but we're going to do it in a way that's healing and understanding, and maybe providing a path to work through it in certain respects. And because for me that's true comfort, rather than let's pretend the bad thing isn't there. It's no, it's okay. It's gonna happen. You're gonna get through it, and it'll be all right. And it's gonna be hard, and it's gonna suck for a bit, and you might, regress a few times, but you're gonna get through it, and it'll be okay. That's really what I hope I can continue to bring with this series. Is we're gonna deal with the hard thing, and we're gonna be okay in the end.
I'm so excited for the rest of the series. Oh, beautiful. Hearth Witch is the first book in a series. That was really well done.
Well, thank you.
I love it.
I planned that.
Yes. Okay, would you walk us through your plotting process for this series?
No.
It's
a secret.
No.
They're honestly mostly what is plotted right now is major character arcs.
Okay.
And then I just had this conversation with my editor about how we wanted to proceed forward. Each book will have a standalone mystery within it. And so you will never be left on a mystery cliffhanger. Each mystery will be solved within that book. But then the characters will continue to grow with each. Very, very similar to the original Sherlock stories, with a little bit more character development, because I know Watson and Sherlock didn't really change from book to book. But that wasn't their job, and that's okay. They weren't in love like maybe Saga and Avery might be eventually.
Eventually, girl, come on.
We're at the crush stage.
Yes, we are. Okay, so how about this one? Would you walk us through the publishing process?
Oh. Sure. Publishing is weird, y'all, as I'm sure many of you know. So it was a lot of waiting, so much waiting. And I just don't, much like Anita Montoya, I hate waiting. So I sent it initially to my agent, and then we did a round of edits, and then we sent that off to a bunch of different publishers. 14 asked for a full manuscript, and that was, I think, in May, not this May, many Mays ago. And we did not hear back until, because I think that was 2023. 2023. When I sent it off?
Oh, no, that was the agent. You're right. 2023.
2022 is when I got my agent. 2023, we sent it off. We did not hear back until end of 2023, where two were like starting to put forward offers, and then I got my final deal memo from Poison Pen Press at the beginning, January 2024. But then we had to keep quiet about it because a deal memo is not your publishing contract. So I knew that they were going to buy it, and was like, is there a chance they're going to back out or anything? Because it was, it's before you sign anything. It's after the lawyers have argued this is what's going to be, and then the lawyers now get to argue about language within the contract. And we got that in August of 2024. And during this time, we had started edits, which was weird to be like, but I still don't have my contract, and I'm kind of working for free right now. Which just happens very often, apparently. But Poison Pen Press is owned by Sourcebooks, who at the time was also being acquired by Random House. Mm-hmm. So that was part of it. But apparently people have waited longer. And then finally we got to announce it in August of 2024. And now we're finally here.
Yay!
After many more edits.
Yes, we are here. Okay, what advice would you give your pre-published self about the publishing process?
Don't be adaptable. Don't try to plan too much, because first of all, the fate will always laugh at you. You'll be like, oh, okay, they said I should expect it around this time, and so I'll set this aside, and then I won't make too many plans during this time. Oh, we're not getting it? Okay. And yeah, just learn to adapt, because sometimes you will be waiting way longer than you think. And then sometimes you'll get it and they'll go, hey, can you get this back to us in like 2 weeks? And you're like, what? Yeah, be adaptable.
Good advice.
And also communicate your boundaries, because your agent, if they're anything worth their salt, will fight for you, and that, amazing.
Okay, so I think probably like 2 more questions, and then we'll do audience questions, and then we'll get your book signed. Okay, so what do you hope readers take away from the story?
A little more whimsy, and maybe like a little bit more curiosity. If those footnotes end up like either inspiring people to share, like, hey, fun fact, I learned this about a weird footnote in the book, or get people to kind of do their own little like, I read in this book that this word comes from this, and that's interesting. I wonder we have little mini computers in our hands at all the time, and if I can encourage in any way people to be just a little bit more curious, because I feel curiosity breeds empathy, and the world could always use more empathy, and I think that would be amazing.
Beautiful. And okay, after readers finish and adore Hearth Witch, what do you recommend we read?
If you're looking for a similar sense of humor, anything by Terry Pratchett, I highly recommend Guards. Guards, it's one of my favorites. If you finish it and it's around the wintertime, Hogfather is also quite good, but it might be hard to jump into as a first book if you haven't read anything by him. If you're looking for something that's similar in mystery and fantasy, there is always the Dresden Files, as well as the October Day series by Shannon McGuire. They're more noir than cozy, but still quite lovely. And I just finished Song of the Hell Witch by my friend Taylor Hartley, and I think it's fantastic, and everyone should read it. So.
Amazing.
Really, it's nothing to do with mine.
And what advice would you give aspiring authors?
Don't read your reviews. I know everybody says it, but don't do it. Don't do it. In fact, get someone else to do it for you, someone you trust, because you're going to feel tempted. And anytime you feel tempted, have like a list of 3 or 4 authors that you would never say the awful things you say about yourself to. You're like, no, they're perfect. They can do no wrong. Go read their 1-star reviews. Anytime you're tempted to go look at your own, don't do it. Like I literally, for Guards, we looked at a 1-star review, Sir Terry Pratchett, freaking hilarious, and it was the funniest thing I've read. It was, oh gosh, I wish I could remember it verbatim, but it was something akin to, this might have been good if the author didn't feel the need to make a dumb joke every 3 sentences. This is for the people with the worst sense of humor. And I thought that was very funny. And I'm like, you were never gonna like this. You were never gonna like this. Someone also, I can't remember which Terry Pratchett it was. It was not Guards, but was going off of like, oh, I hated this the same way I hated Hitchhiker's Guide and Lemony Snicket. And I'm like, great, love it. You're never gonna be everybody's fan. And that's the most amazing thing to me. It's like these people that I would never say the horrible things my imposter syndrome says to me have horrible things said about their books, and it's so subjective, and that's all it comes down to. You can't take it personally, and nope, you can't be for everyone.
And now I have one more question, and then I'll let you run, and then we'll do audience. Okay, what's up next in book 2?
I just got my edits back for book 2.
Okay.
And I'll be turning those in December 1st. So we can't announce a release date yet because that'll depend on what happens with that. We are aiming for next fall. But we're going to be focusing a little bit more on revenge as a motive.
I love that. I'm ready. Okay, lightning round, and then we have some audience.
All right.
All right, coffee or tea?
Coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon.
Okay, hardcover or paperback?
It really depends how I'm reading it.
Okay.
One's a great trophy, one I can curl up with and I don't feel bad about opening and bending every which way.
Yep. What are you currently reading?
I'm currently reading The Lone Wolf Cafe
It's
by
amazing.
Cindy Wilder, I believe.
Yep, you got it.
Okay.
It's
I'm like
so good.
trying to imagine her username in my thing going, yeah, okay.
That's it. Yep. What's your favorite trope?
Probably fish out of water, which I used twice in this book.
I love it. Savory or sweet?
Savory, oddly, which is, amusingly, the ship name for Saga and Avery.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
First, second, or third person?
Third. I do like third person.
Third is great. Silence or music when writing?
Music. I always need noise. Usually, not just music, but usually I either have like rain sounds as well, layered in, or cafe chatter.
Love it. Okay. And favorite season?
Autumn.
Of course.
I'm a fall bitch.
Yes.
Through and through.
And now we have some audience questions. Any questions? Please raise your hand even if you don't have one. Yes.
I know this might be like a hard one to pick, but spoiler free, if you had a favorite footnote that you wrote.
She's like, where's my book?
I don't have it. Off the top of my head. Oh God, I love all of them. They're so fun.
They're so good.
The one about the hagstone is pretty funny, but I couldn't quote it to you by verbatim. But essentially, it is talking about what a hagstone is, and I really should have brought it because I have a bunch at home. But a hagstone is essentially a naturally occurring stone with a hole in it that, through folklore, believed if you looked through it, you could see the fairies, or basically through a glamour. It has many other known names, including the Adder Stone or Witch's Stone, but hagstone is the one that has stuck with popularity, and we think it is probably because of the first human to ever discover a magical catfish. It's said much better in the book.
I love it. Any more questions? Yes.
Yeah. So throughout this talk, when you're talking about planning the murder and stuff, you said "we" a few times. I would love to hear more about how community has worked in your writing process. Who helps you? What it looks like.
Definitely that one. Is my partner in solving crime. I don't think we've really ever managed since we've been together to do any project where we didn't at least go, hey, can you look at this? It's just great to have a brain to bounce things off of, because you get in your head, or you're like, hey, does this make sense, or have I just been in a weird free association spiral for the past hour? And so it makes sense to me, but anyone else would go, what the heck are you talking about? I also had some beta readers through my Patreon for this book, and just really, that's more of a matter of, because sometimes they won't necessarily give a ton of feedback, but you're just trying to make sure, like, hey, does this make sense at the end? And also just the things I have learned, or just by going out in the world, because I think that's a big thing we don't talk enough about with writing, because a lot of authors very much are introverts, and I feel like you got to be out in the world, you got to have some sort of community, because that's going to connect you to not just the characters in your book, but your readers as well. And I can't tell you how many times just something I've experienced has made itself into a story. Morris dancing is in book 2. Which, if you know anything about us, we have a Discworld themed Morris troupe. We normally practice on Wednesdays.
Okay, we have time for like 2 more short questions and like 1 long one. So, yes.
This is a little spoiler because it's the second sentence of the book.
The second sentence! No!
Oh my gosh! The second sentence uses the word petrichor, which reminded me of the list I have in my notes app of my favorite words to use. Do you have a list of favorite words you like to use, and could you find a way to fit any and all of them into this book or any of your other books?
My favorite word is in that book, I believe. It's eviscerate. Spoilers. Or a version of it, I believe is. But petrichor, I love rain. I am still a Seattle, I live here, but I'm still a Seattleite through and through. We don't get enough rain in LA. I'm the one of the few people who gets very happy during like our 1 week of rain when everyone else is going, when's the sun coming back? It was 80 in October, shut up. The demons. So anytime I get to talk about petrichor, because it's my favorite smell in the world, it smells like home to me. And I love London for a very similar reason, is it feels like home, because it's just raining all the time. Which is evident in the first sentence of that book, as well as the first sentence of the last chapter, because they are mirrored a little bit.
I love this. Okay, another question? Just one? Close us off? Yes.
What was the moment in this process that made you realize that this is really happening, that this book is coming out? How could it be it?
This one. I laugh, but it's been a very funny thing. Of yesterday, it technically was officially out, but they started, like some stores started getting it earlier in their stock, and they just put it right on their shelves. And so I was getting pictures from friends going, "Hey, it's at this Barnes and Noble. It's here. It's there." And just sending me pictures, which was like little mini Christmases, which was amazing. But it still felt very surreal. Even last night, we went and just walked into a bookstore before it closed, and we were like, "Hey, I see you have like 4 copies of my book. Could I sign it? Is that okay?" And they let me. So I started to feel it then. And then I think honestly the exact moment was when Teresa took me out and I saw this stack of books from people who had ordered it, and I started to feel my throat get all tight, and I was like, "Oh, okay. So this is not just like a little thing. Like this is actually quite, at least for me, quite huge." So that is, yeah, this has been kind of crazy to be like, "Oh, okay."
You did it, and we're here, and I've read it, I loved it, and you all will love it too. So, thank you all so much for joining us to celebrate this amazing book.
Take a group picture.
Yes.
Yeah!
Books, and then